My plan to blend in with the wallflowers at the Bunbury's ball failed before I'd even had the opportunity to greet our hostess. A row of elderly chaperones raised their lorgnettes as one and peered at me. They didn't try to hide their scrutiny, but they did cover their mouths with their open fans so they could gossip without having their lips read. Whatever their opinion of me, I couldn't tell. Nor did I care. I wasn't here for their entertainment. I'd only come to the ball to appease my aunt and uncle who were using the occasion to officially launch me into London society. I owed them this much after they'd taken me in with open arms. My cousin Floyd followed my gaze. They look like crows, ready to swoop on the unsuspecting. His friend Jonathan, standing on my other side, leaned down to my level. His breath smelled of cigarettes and whiskey. The only swooping they'll do will be on the supper table later. He looked every bit the respectable gentleman tonight, dressed in a black tailcoat and crisp white shirt, with his blonde hair neatly combed back. But the indolent youth hadn't completely disappeared. It was still evident in the heavily hooded eyes, the sneering tilt of his lips, and overconfident manner. He'd managed to secure the first 2 dances with me, purely because he'd asked me in the presence of my aunt and uncle, and they made it clear I should accept. Lady Bunbury welcomed us with enthusiastic smiles and a warm greeting, which onlookers would have believed was genuine, but our family knew was false. After learning of the Bunburys' financial difficulty during my last investigation, Lady Bunbury had pointedly not invited us to her ball, the first and most important event on the social calendar. It was only after Aunt Lillian's unspoken threat to expose the Bunburys' predicament that she'd finally extended invitations, but not before Flossie had cried herself to sleep for several nights. My cousin had been convinced her life was over. We exchanged the obligatory pleasantries before moving on to Lord Bunbury, and finally, further into the ballroom itself. Flossie stopped abruptly and clasped my hand.
"Look at this room, Cleo. Isn't it heavenly?"
It was indeed marvellous. There was no sign of the Bunburys' poverty. Guests were welcomed at the Mayfair townhouse's front steps by dozens of lanterns illuminating the way, then invited up the sweeping staircase, woven with garlands of leaves and white roses. More rose garlands hung above doorways and windows and filled enormous vases. Clearly the ball's theme was white, signifying innocence, a virtue the debutantes who'd recently been presented at court were expected to possess. The unofficial theme for the evening was wealth. The opulence was on display everywhere, from the diamond-encrusted tiaras of the debutantes to the jewels adorning the throats and ears of their mothers and chaperones. It wasn't just the wealth of the guests, but also of the Bunburys, although in their case it was all a facade. Lady Bunbury had sold her jewellery and had replicas made to look like the originals. The Bunburys had everyone fooled. By holding the first ball of the season for many years, they'd set themselves up as the arbiters of style and ensured they remained popular. An invitation and their regard were both highly sought after. But this evening must be costing them a small fortune. It wasn't just the decorations. There were a lot of staff, too. Far more than the Bunburys employed on a permanent basis. There were footmen in abundance, and there must be several more staff in the kitchen preparing the refreshments. Flossie touched my arm and directed my attention to a girl standing with a large group.
"That's Amelia Livingston. They say she'll be Debutante of the Year. I can see why. She's very beautiful."
"And beauty is the chief requirement," I muttered.
"You're so cynical, Cleo. It's just as important to be amenable, accomplished in the gentle arts, and well-bred. Oh, and thin."
She sucked in her stomach.
"If Lady Bunbury does crown her as Debutante of the season, she'll be engaged to be married before August."
It looks like the eligible bachelors are already circling. Miss Livingston was surrounded by people, not just young men, but their mothers too. She smiled sweetly at something one of the gentlemen was saying. Indeed, she'd been smiling the same way ever since I'd laid eyes on her. It never wavered, not even when the others laughed at a joke. She continued to smile inanely. Either she wasn't listening, or she had a different sense of humour to the others. Or none at all.